It's such a squirrely title, Futurist, right? Like, what exactly does that mean? So we'll get into that throughout the slides and the conversation. I just want to congratulate you all, though, because it's been a pretty harrowing day and a half, 2 days of a lot of great dialogue, smart conversation, really sharp insights, right? We're in the home stretch. So feel good about that. Roll the shoulders. We're getting close. And as Jim said, I'm sort of charged with coming up with some high-level takeaways on our time spent together, some of the views shared in the kernels of wisdom that were bestowed, and sort of recapture that landscape of where we see things headed and some of the challenges, issues, and opportunities that lay ahead for all of us, right? So that being said, I've got a number of slides. We will move very quickly. There are some slides that are info light, some that are fairly meaty. I'll give you the URL afterward where you can download and have at it with all you want with the information. So yeah, our heads are spinning. There has been so much fabulous conversation and thoughts shared and connections forged, right? So we're very thankful for the RJI team and Jim for organizing this and setting it up and bringing the right players and perspectives into Columbia today, whether it was remotely, virtually, or terrific for those of us to be able to rub shoulders and be able to share and pontificate and speculate and poke holes in ideas and think about shifts and pivots and course corrections as we try and navigate the next few years of this wacky world of journalism and media distribution, content, and all the other things that we've grown to know and love. These were the themes that were neatly organized by Jim and company, right? Things that we really would organize thoughts and speakers around in very high level, very meaty, substantive issues. I thought the organization, the structure, and the format and the flow of the conversations and thoughts were excellent, spot on, and again, it was nonstop activity, right? The pace in which we were trying to grapple with new concepts and sometimes terms and language and some of the exciting ideas and products that you guys are working on. 20 minutes later, the next person was up talking about theirs, and you were still maybe perhaps, if you're like me, processing what you heard a few minutes in the rearview mirror. And so we move very quickly, but thankfully so much of it is captured in recorded history, right? Through Twitter and the streaming technologies, and I'm sure some material will be made available in the archives, and that's a very exciting prospect.
RJIonline.org will have that.
Perfect. So, right, the question we're all asking, we're about to get back on planes, trains, automobiles, or head across campus and get back to our other lives in the coming hours or next couple of days. And so the question is, what have we learned? What have we picked up through the 20 or 30 speakers and the connection points and smart conversations at dinner last night and throughout, right? So the key that we're all sort of thinking the wheels are turning around is, what do we make of it, right? And the answer, right, once we get past the obvious of like, take our mobile devices and throw them as far away as we can, get under the bed, take cover, right, heed cover of darkness, safety and sanctuary. It's okay, right? Once we collectively embrace, hold hands through exchanges such as what we're doing here today in Columbia this week, and further dialogue and knowledge share, things are going to be okay, right? The idea of a news futurist from CNN who comes in and, the rest of you are carrying smartphones, I've got a crystal ball. That's not really practical. I'm here to tell you that neither CNN or Google or The Times or BuzzFeed or Circa, sorry Dave, or RJI and Mizzou have all the answers. No one person or entity has all the solutions, and they are not seeing that far off in yonder, know exactly where things are headed, right? So we at least have a little comfort knowing that. Not much, that doesn't buy us a lot of time. That's not something we can chart ROI against and take that to the stockholders and board members and the decision makers around the need for greater experimentation and things that we'll talk about in a minute. But the fact that nobody's got it all figured out, really underscores the importance of gatherings like this and the relationships that are forged here today. So I won't go through all of the takeaways that you and I and thankfully people on Twitter and the live stream and elsewhere on the World Wide Web were able to mash through. But we were exposed to some really interesting thoughts and takeaways. Really sort of setting the tone, I thought, yesterday morning when we heard from Frank and then Randy later on in the morning talking about some of the adoption trends and how the models and the practical uses in terms of growth and who's using what for what purposes was really important. Of course, I loved the anecdote that Randy shared around, that thanks to mobile computing, he's able to go off and do some shopping with his family and still stay plugged in, connected, and relevant, really not skipping a beat, right? That's important to really all facets of life. But really going on down through the litany of smart speakers and really taking advantage of all of the learnings and going back and looking at the tweets and the storyfies and really making sense of where we want to take advantage and leverage some of these new possibilities and doorways. They all won't work for our products and services and newsrooms, and that's okay. We need to be really strategic around how we want to apply them against the high-level goals and objectives of your organization or you as an individual and what you're trying to glean through successes in this space, right? There's some fabulous takeaways. I know just example from some of the conversations. I'm going to move around, so you guys bear with me on the stream. I'm hoping you guys don't get motion sickness at home. But a lot of really important takeaways, guys. I will say ones that resonated for me this morning alone was important, as we heard from Laura, around understanding audience and focusing on the user. But really, there were some smart thoughts shared throughout, and we got to see some interesting products, such as the Como second screen application. Very powerful stuff. So, who here knows the origins of this smart piece of wisdom? Anybody? Yeah. All right. I like to show this before I get into numbers, right? As a bit of a disclaimer, right? So, one of the earliest media strategists around, right? I thought he said it very eloquently, and it's held up nicely over time, right? Because that's one of the things that's got our heads spinning the last 2 days is so many numbers, so many trends, so many data points, so many graphs and charts and measurements. If I see another pie chart, I may lose some pie. But no, in all seriousness, I love numbers. I love the data. I firmly believe numbers don't tell the whole story, but they certainly help paint a picture, right? So I love all of those data touch points that have been shared over the last couple of days. Those are very exciting and give me things to think about, as they should all of us, hopefully. But just to sort of reassess and think about and underscore some of the ones that really jump out at me in terms of things that I've seen and that we think about and have smart conversation around in our offices, right? The mobile majority, right? This is a number from Pew that goes up every year, and it will for a long while, right? 51% a year ago, or 49%. It was right around the halfway, and now we're well over that with 61, according to latest figures, right? So who here is brave enough to acknowledge they do not have a smartphone? Anyone? Oh, come on, someone's, right? Okay, well, good for you. You guys are in the right place then. So good for you. So here's 100% adoption. For the rest of America, 61, which is really interesting, right? So then we look at that, and then we look at behaviors and consumer trends, how people use the devices. Among those that have the smartphone, what are they doing with it? Now, I've been keeping eyes on all of you guys this morning, and I know you hit the 150 mark before we had the first break. So you guys over-index on this one. So but it's the middle ground. 150 is about average, right? And so you just think to yourself, where do I fit in that sort of big picture, the grand scheme of of glancing at your device because you're out shopping and you need to keep up with work productivity, or you're checking sports scores or streaming live video or something that's been time-shifted viewing. So 150 is an interesting number. That's also a figure that will continue to grow over time as more functionality, more devices become available, connectivity becomes more broadly available. So you will continue to see this number grow through and through. By the way, you'll notice most of these bite-sized nuggets are 140 characters or less. Hints. I'm just saying. But in all seriousness, have fun tweeting and engaging in social, and I hope you guys get a chance to share this wealth and all the wealth that we've heard over the last 2 days. This is an important figure, right? So of the people who have these smartphone devices, how are they using them? Not just to glance at them, but deeper than that. What do the interactions look like? This is a figure that's grown remarkably in the last 3 years. And so the idea of the second screen behavior and individuals that are watching something on the first screen, a television, presumably, right? And they're pulling out their mobile device and they're interacting in some regard. So now we're up to 85% of those 61% who own smartphone devices, right? That's an exciting number. Anybody familiar with these sort of data points and know what the most popular activity is to do on their smartphone during a program that they're watching on television? A Candy Crush. That's not a bad distraction during the commercial break. But yeah, close. Yeah, close. Checking email. That's during commercial breaks. I know it's weird because these things are so much more beyond email, but people feel the need to just check in with their lives outside of what they're doing on the couch or wherever they're consuming content, and they're checking email during commercial breaks. The second most popular behavior currently is to look up information about the program they're watching on IMDb or Wikipedia or Google or wherever, find out more information about the things that they're consuming, right? So, and then engaging on social is right there behind it. So that's an impressive number, 85% of users. I'm not going to go through all of these, to just know that nerds like us anxiously await every sort of February time period when Cisco releases their visually network forecast for the next 5 years. They do a 5-year outlook and they update it at the beginning of each year, and that is really one of those reports that just blows you away in terms of, like, we're just getting started, baby. Like 2018 is going to blow the doors off of usage and consumption, device availability, and really important for those of us, all of us in the media industry, and that is video will remain on top. Cisco predicts a 14-fold increase and remaining the highest growth rate of all mobile application categories, right? Very important. And again, mobile video will represent 69% of all global mobile data traffic. That's up from 53% currently. So continued explosive growth with mobile video. Very exciting. You guys doing okay? All right. We're in the home stretch of the home stretch. I assure you that. So just a few more thoughts on where things are headed and what we're seeing and things that are out there that I think we're all sort of thinking about to differing degrees and trying to understand and get better arms around, right? So the idea that that we fly in, we drive in, we walk across campus, and we come to something called mobile first, and we've heard references to the idea of mobile everywhere, and we understand that, we accept it, we see enough evidence of the Internet of Things and the seamless experience of just screens consuming our lives, that if we think about if we got the band back together next year and everybody got the invite and we did this in 2015 or 2016, would we still call it mobile first, right? Because to me, a lot of the things we've been saying, we just haven't been saying it in so many words, but it's really mobile everywhere, mobile ubiquity, right? It's just, that's where things are headed, right? In terms of the experiences of consuming content, interacting. There's been quite a bit that's been discussed about the different platforms, right? So CNN, the original news startup, so we're a multi-platform company, and when I got to CNN 11 years ago, we did a pretty good job of informing news producers and people that were creating content around the three primary screens. That would be the television screen, the PC laptop, as people watch and consume video content and news on their computers, and then the third screen, the mobile device, and would become the smartphone, right? And then a few years later, we started learning and seeing audience data and research around the fourth screen, right? So tablets, and that's become a tremendous force in this landscape. And in the last couple of years, we now have the introduction of the fifth screen, right? So wearable technologies, right? So embedded screens, glasses, watches on your clothing, et cetera, right? So when we really take a step back, we want to think about less focus on the actual screen and the output, and more about the behaviors that happen in between those screens, right? The magic that happens as I'm watching the Channel 8 second screen app, and it's giving me a value add to what I would get normally by just watching the standalone TV newscast at 10 o'clock, or Walking Dead, or Anderson Cooper 360. What is something that's driving me or driving some interaction or behavior? My favorite example is, as we approach midterm elections later this year, elections are a lot of fun, right, for covering, in big ways. And one of the things I really enjoy during presidential elections are the debates, right? And if you're like me and you pull out your iPad or your tablet and you watch the hashtag and you engage on Twitter, and you get the snark and the cynicism that you've grown to know and love on Twitter, right? But the way people rub questions, and they hear things differently, and the memes that are quickly generated because of a funny face and the looks and things that you might not miss otherwise. I could not go back to watching just the broadcast linear feed of a presidential debate ever again. I've got to have both of those screens in front of me for the full holistic experience. That's awesome, right? And it's really about driving brand, the connection, engagement, and pushing across those experiences. And so as we get into wearable, and we think not just about how someone will receive CNN's content or any of our news and information, but really about what that behavior will do to influence and overlap and exchange with other screens. That's sort of the way a lot of us look at it. I won't spend a lot of time on glass. Just know that when all of us, I think about wearable tech in interesting ways, right? And so it's not just about placing your content on the app, but all of us in the content business are thinking about the perspectives and the news gathering and the reporting and the dynamics shifting and changing and how we go out and do news and media. So certainly there's a lot of experimentation that's taking place. There are some interesting benefit potentials. There's also a lot of drawbacks and challenges. There's a lot of limitations on this emerging technology right now. But it would certainly behoove all of us in this industry to experiment and see what works and what doesn't. And we've talked a bit about refining playbooks and best practices and guidelines and really coming up with that in this growing space. This is super important. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time here, guys, for the sake of time, but experimentation and the need for rapid prototyping, iterative processes where we're not doing development and building systems and applications for enterprise level release and also consumer products. We're not doing them from idea to execution before release, but we're actually leveraging iterative processes and working through these development cycles is a very enticing idea. And I will add, as we heard from Laura this morning talking about audience, to expand on that a little bit, the thing that I like to share is that audience research is tremendously valuable. Where we need to grow as an industry and as managers and thought leaders is what we do with that audience data to empower the people who are behind the content, who are shaping the types of stories we cover, the formats in which we cover them, the length in which we cover stories. And we think about those audiences, for example, compelling video, and what that would look like on a beautiful 50-inch HD television screen versus a 13 or 15-inch laptop versus a 1-inch smartphone screen. And the appetite and the tolerance for even the most compelling video is often very slanted and different. But for far too long, we've plugged in the holes of content across platform, not taking into consideration the difference in nuance and the appetite and the tolerance level, thresholds for who wants what on different devices. As we see the analytics and as we see the research come in, and it's changing and evolving with technology as things become more user-friendly, we need to empower and educate and enlighten the people that are really in control of filling these gaps. We're a big fan of pulling together these pods or small teams, we call them hybrid collectives, of working journalists, of design professionals, of computer programmers, and having them sit together and work together, not just doing a stand-up or checking in on an email or a conference call once a week, but through true convergence, certainly having them work together to develop new ideas and new initiatives across our platforms around tentpole initiatives and big coverage, breaking news or elections. And that really is providing the full frontal assault necessary for so many of the ideas that we've discussed here this week. We've heard a lot about silos and the need to blow those up, and this is something we certainly believe in is the core of really getting after it in that way. Change management is hard, right? We're here with a willingness, and many of us in an open mind, to grow and adapt and reinvent. This is exciting for us. It's daunting. We want to be that cute little puppy under the bed. We can relate. But at the same time, we're ready to rise to these challenges. Our newsrooms, it's a mixed bag, right? We know that introducing killer technology is so much more than just giving people some sparkly new device. It is much about the culture than it is about the technology. And how we introduce and manage and support change management, hugely important. Applying structure, important communication chains, supporting processes, and really thinking about change management from the user, from the newsroom or media platform perspective is going to be super important going forward, particularly with all this disruption. The slide with the washer dryer and all of the technology, the lawnmower, I'm making stuff up now. Everything that is coming, a decade and then the next new thing, and now it's like 20 minutes and it's the next new thing, right? So now change management's more important than ever. Some final thoughts on where things are headed, guys, and then I'll wrap it up. I think this stuff is pretty obvious for this crowd, right? This is more of a universally sort of afforded slide, but the idea that we're all here because we're already thinking about different business models at a scale, an objective, and core to the belief that may be significantly different or slightly from what we're doing or your neighbor, right? But the idea that we're thinking about where the next revenue streams are going to be is hugely important, obviously, to keep so much of this going. And the idea that we hire these restless agents of change, people that are willing to not just survive and make it through this transformative period, but actually help lead, right? And that we see so many of the trends that are forging forward around app-like experiences within news, things that emphasize visual, right? Maps and graphics, interactive experience that really cater to the app generation, right? So we need to be thinking along those terms, and some of the formulas of the future are quite exciting. It's changed our lives, guys, and it will continue, as we saw a few minutes ago, in terms of the device availability and connectivity and what people are doing with it and those behaviors, and the idea that, and I'm sure you've all done this, where you leave the house and you're partly down your drive, you'll turn back for your phone, you could live without your wallet or purse, right? Because the phone serves the purpose of all that stuff, right? So the idea that mobile does so much, and this will continue to grow, right? And we have to think along the lines of what is your mobile moment. A couple of things just to jot down. This is how we connect. We've been talking email, so please don't send me, we've been talking mobile, so please don't send me an email, right? You be creative in how you get a hold of people, and so we'll connect socially, or we'll do something using FM transmitter that Will told us about that's popular in Africa. We'll figure out, the point is figure out some creative way to get a hold of people that break through the clutter. And tinyurl.com/RJI mobile first -Victor for all those slides. I'd be happy to take a few questions as long as they're not missing plane crash related. Thought I would get that out of the way.
Go ahead, Carol.
We heard from the CTO at Mashable who, talked at length about how algorithms, form the homepage, decide this story's going left, right, top. I'm curious about where CNN is in that thought process, if it's still really manual and you've got people looking at the, homepage of the website and deciding, on the moment what's going to be the lead story, or if you're looking at data to drive that.
Still, a lot of our processes and workflow, a lot of the decision making is still human powered, with an increasing emphasis on new technologies that further automation, right? So, and that's the holy grail for a lot of groups. And that's scary for editorial, but at the same time, if it means that editorial can focus on playing offense rather than maybe some of the lesser menial tasks and redundancy in copy and paste and going backwards, then that's a good thing. But I would say some of the things that we heard here today around this week, semantic web and understanding, what's in our own databases and making sense of smarter search, this helps us advance in that area of, what are the things that we need people to do, and then how do we use computer algorithms to fill up another portion of workflow so that, again, we can spend more time playing offense. Too many of our frontline journalists are doing data entry, right? It's really disheartening, and going back after the fact in the middle of breaking news to go enter in metadata when the metadata lives in other systems. We just haven't done a good enough job of building systems and integrating on the back end so that these things can talk to each other, so that as you enter in one place and someone's entering in information on their mobile, it's filtering out not just CMS, but across all of our primary systems and applications. And that's an important part of automation that we're excited about.
We haven't heard a lot about wearable technology, so I'm wondering how you see that affecting what you're already doing, and is it just a different screen size, or is it totally change the experience? Like, what do you think about that?
Yeah, well, like I said, there's two spectrums to that, and there's the CNN's got some really nice early placement on the Google Play Store, so that the explorers can experience and preview CNN content on their screen. But to me, the more exciting component there is the news gathering and reporting, and what this will do for committed acts of journalism rather than just the distribution of the content. But there are some other applications that we want to take it. We want to take it beyond just ourselves and think about, as this technology begins to take off. And by no means am I suggesting everyone should invest heavily in Google Glass. It is still unproven, right? That's why it's in closed beta and going through a lot of refinement. But there's a lot of viability with wearable, and so as consumers begin to climb into the market space and experiment and provide citizen journalism posts and things like that, want to interact and participate with programming or your brand, these are things that we need to think about across platform.
CNN's been very active with iReport, but from your professional journalists, have you integrated the smartphone and video collection as an option for them when they're out reporting?
For iReporters?
Yeah.
We have, yeah. It's available. It is available in, the thing that you see the growth of iReport and UGC, and 7 years ago when it launched, there was a pretty big delta between the fourth and fifth estates, right? So you had the tried and true professionals, and then it's like a big stiff arm to the people covering it in their community. That's not what we do. We do something differently. But that mentality, and that there's a shift that's occurred that's a really important one, because the truth is that a lot of the stories that were being told were just as compelling, thanks to technology and cameras and SLRs and other things. The content was pretty good too. So this idea of open, collaborative journalism and storytelling, where the content and the narrative sit side by side, it's a very powerful one. We've got something on our report called Open Story. Hurricanes and elections and big events that are strewn across multiple states. The CNN journalism and the iReports, they sit right next to each other. There's a little bit of a logo so you can tell which is which, but in terms of the experience in seeing a powerful photo or reading someone's firsthand account, they really are side by side in practice and in sort of culturally, which was an important shift, I think, for a lot of us to sort of move in this direction.
Victor Hernandez from CNN.
Thanks, guys. Thanks.